in confronting President Trump. And make no mistake, the U.S. president will take advantage of that weakness. I should also add that liberals want to use this crisis to make you forget. To make you forget they've been in power for 10 years and 3 terms, that they are seeking a 4th term in office. And they want you to forget that they are the ones that doubled housing costs, doubled food bank lineups, doubled our national debt, drove $500 billion from Canada to the U.S., and made us weak in the face of our American counterparts.
Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. How y'all doing? So, did you see Pierre Poilievre's speech the other day? He was going back at Trump, fighting back to the comments that Trump made about him. It was probably the worst performance I've seen of Poilievre's career. Today, we're gonna show another press conference that he had, and it was a lot better for Pierre. I don't know what's going on with the Conservative Party. I think they're taking their lead from PIERRE committees now that Parliament has been down. When Parliament's in session, they're more reacting on their own and writing for themselves. These PIERRE teams are for the birds. Because just, again, I don't trust these polls, but the polls are saying the Liberals made a big jump. I can kind of understand what that would be, that Canadians that don't watch federal politics, but do watch international politics, that don't like Trump, would be seeing the Liberals fighting back against these Trump tariffs that are, well, they're imposed now and some are pending. Anyhow, so this is a much better speech and press conference by Pierre Poilievre. Let's take a look and a listen. Pierre Poilievre, he is really good in the House of Commons, guys. I don't know about how things have been going the last couple of months. This prorogation has just messed everything up, and the Liberals are using their media machine tactfully, I guess, effectively, something like that. Let's take a look and a listen to Pierre Poilievre. Let's get it going, Pierre.
Thank you very much, everyone. Before getting into my announcement about bringing home accountability, allow me to address the unjustified tariffs that the president has now partially backed down from. My message to the president is this: knock it off. Stop the chaos. You are hurting your workers, your consumers, and most immediately, destroying trillions of dollars of wealth on your own stock market. You're attacking a cherished friend of the United States, and you are strengthening America's enemies by going after America's friends. Stop tariffing our country and stop the monthly melodrama that is hurting our economies on both sides of the border. If you want American workers to have bigger paychecks and lower prices, then let's do more trade, not less. But if you choose otherwise, we will retaliate, we will fight back, and we will defend ourselves because we will always put Canada first. Putting Canada first means that we can't rely on President Trump or the Americans anymore. We can't live with these dramas every 30 days. We need to take back control of our economy and bring home our jobs, business, and economic sovereignty. And what have the Liberals done to achieve that since President Trump first threatened the tariffs on November 26th of last year? It's been 100 days. They have not repealed the No Pipelines Law, C-69, that effectively forces us to sell all our energy to the Americans. They have not approved a single new LNG plant, mine, or pipeline. They have not removed any of the tax increases that have driven $500 billion of our investment south of the border. They have not passed a single law to make us more self-reliant. Why? Because they closed Parliament.
In my humble opinion, I think this is humble and somewhat insightful, I believe. I'm a Canadian that is a voter. I'm not a conservative. I'm watching this thing like an invested Canadian. This is much more what I'd prefer myself to see Poilievre focusing on, which would be the Liberals, not the Americans, and that international stuff. That's a big distraction that works in the favor of the Liberals. So I just focus on the Liberal corruption that we've been watching unfold. All the people that are just tuning in will catch on. Focus on the Liberal corruption. Pierre Poilievre, please, that'd be a good move. Let's keep watching.
Liberals put themselves first instead of putting Canada first. What I got into politics for was to bring home the Canadian promise. You know, we are all aware of the famous American dream. We have something better in Canada. It's the Canadian promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life and a beautiful home on a safe street, protected by solid borders and brave troops under a proud flag. That promise has been broken after 9 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, who've doubled housing costs, doubled the national debt, doubled food bank lineups, and doubled gun crime. We're going to bring home that promise. We're going to bring home that promise by repealing C-69 to grant permission for pipelines, mines, LNG plants that will get our products to other non-American overseas markets, by passing a bold, beautiful, patriotic, bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, energy, home building, and making stuff in Canada. We'll knock down interprovincial trade barriers, and we'll unleash the production of our resources here in Canada for our benefit. Speaking of benefit, you have to ask yourself, for whose benefit is the Prime Minister of Canada, any Prime Minister of Canada, actually working? Who does the Prime Minister work for?
So Pierre, I think, is segueing into trashing Carney now, like having, conflicts of interest that he's not revealing to Canadians. I can't believe that people aren't paying more attention to this. I know the people that watch my channel and my videos are in tune to this, but Mark Carney, in my heart, it feels like he's just another Liberal scam. Anyway, Pierre Poilievre is going to knock Mark Carney down a few notches. Tell the truth? Imagine a guy without security clearance doing this.
You pay his salary, he spends your money. He controls your borders, criminal laws, military. He negotiates trade agreements with foreign countries that can help or hurt your family. He makes life or death decisions. Now, what if he has millions of dollars of financial interests that are opposite your interests? What if he's profiting off insider knowledge and power at your expense? What if his interests lie with foreign hostile governments that can undermine our country? Then he is not working for you, he's working against you. That's why we have a law in Canada that requires politicians disclose all their assets and sell off any that put them in a conflict. You might be familiar with this law. It's called the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Law, because Justin Trudeau has been convicted twice of breaking that law. That's why we call Justin Trudeau a man of conviction. He keeps getting convicted. But now Trudeau's advisor, Mark Carney, has found a sneaky loophole, one that could allow him to gain power while hiding and holding millions of dollars in interests that go against you and your country. Here's how. Conflict of interest rules do not apply to leadership candidates. Mr. Carney could win the Liberal leadership and become Prime Minister without revealing to Canadians his massive multi-million-dollar foreign holdings. And he isn't even required at the point of becoming Prime Minister to reveal these holdings. He has 60 days to share the information with the Ethics Commissioner, and then another 60 days for a total of 120 before some of that information goes public. Worse, he can simply put the existing holdings in what is called a blind trust, while his trustee keeps him invested in all of the same things. So he could go on and govern for years, quietly and subtly knowing what investments he has and making decisions that profit himself at the expense of the Canadian people. He could affect vital regulatory decisions, national security, international trade, all to his own benefit, all against the benefit of the Canadian people. Now, if you question whether he's willing to do that, keep in mind that Mark Carney's first decision after Donald Trump first threatened tariffs against Canada was to move his headquarters to the United States, sending Canadian jobs to America. So, what if he continues making decisions but now has all the power to make them with being Prime Minister of the country? Now, to be clear, there's nothing in the law that prevents Mr. Carney from doing the right thing today. He could voluntarily disclose to Canadians all of his holdings, and then people could judge for themselves. He could offer to sell them all so that he wouldn't be in a conflict of interest. But he's being sneaky. He continues to hide. What is he hiding in all of these finances? And how could he possibly negotiate with President Trump? You can be sure of one thing. President Trump believes in using leverage against his counterparty. He said so in his book. And his officials will come in with a briefing note. And that note will say, here are all Mark Carney's millions of dollars of financial holdings in the United States. And the president would then be able to use his massive regulatory, taxation, government buying, and other powers to manipulate Mark Carney against our country. You can be sure that President Trump will leverage all of Mark Carney's financial interests against Canada. And then Canadians would lose out again, just like they lost out when Carney sold out Canada and sent jobs to New York a few months ago. How could Mark Carney support Canadian energy if he's invested in foreign energy projects that compete with that energy? How could he regulate financial institutions to stop ripping off small businesses when one of his companies is accused of doing just that? How could he save jobs when one of his companies is presently laying off 1,000 workers to pay bigger bonuses to shareholders? That's why I'm announcing that common sense conservatives will bring home accountability by amending the Conflict of Interests and Ethics Act to require anyone who becomes a leadership candidate for a registered federal party to disclose all their holdings to the Ethics Commissioner within 30 days and publish them publicly within 60. We will also require prime ministers and ministers to sell off all holdings that put them within a conflict of interest within 30 days of taking power. That will put you back in charge of your government and bring home power to the people. It will ensure that our leaders work for you, not for greedy and corrupt interests. It will prevent our leaders from selling out our people for personal profit. And it will stop corrupt, immoral, elitist, and globalist forces from pulling the strings of the people in charge. Simply put, our leaders must put Canada first. They must work for you. And that is what I will do. We will restore the Canadian promise so that your hard work guarantees you a great life in a beautiful house on a safe street, protected by solid borders and brave troops under a proud flag in Canada. Let's bring it home.
So we have the media scrum to follow. We'll put that here at the end after this bit, but these are the things that Poilievre needs to focus on, which would be the liberal corruption and the ongoing and the mess we're about to get into with Mark Carney. It looks like he's going to win that leadership race, doesn't it to you? I think that any of those other options would be less harmful than Carney, but we're just going to have to wait and see what that leadership race brings. Nothing good. And hopefully it won't matter, because once they do have a leader, and Parliament will be in session here at the end of March. I think March 27th they're supposed to be back, I think. So we're looking forward to that. Anyways, the rest of this scrum is the media kind of pushing it towards Trump, which that's not, in my opinion, what Pierre Poilievre's position is to take. What is he going to do? there's a lot of things to get through. There's another session of Parliament, bud. There's going to be an election. Like, what are you going to do? Worry about the Liberals and focus Canadians' attention on the corruption and the money waste and the homelessness and the food shortages, all of these other issues. American tariffs, not that they're the least of our worries, they're a serious concern. I mean, we're in tough financial times already, right? And the 51st state, all that's foolishness out the window. Focus on Liberal corruption, Pierre Poilievre. Anyways, we'll get into the rest of the scrum, but watch the way the media pushes it always towards this, what seems to me to be a liberal agenda. Let's take a look and a listen. Good job, Pierre Poilievre. My name's Aaron, Canadian Loony. Like, share, subscribe, get notified, all those fun things. We do live shows. Like, we're going to be covering Question Period on the regular. We're getting back into being on here very consistently. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. Here's the scrum. Enjoy that. Pierre Poilievre is much better in this press conference than the last one. And onwards and upwards. We'll see where it goes. That's it. Check out the rest of the scrum.
Thank you. Next question.
Terry Newman, National Post. The House of Commons has been shut down by the behest of the Liberal Party. Do we even have a sense at this point what kind of negotiations are even being made in Washington? How hard we are negotiating to stop these tariffs?
I don't think we do. I mean, what we know is that since President Trump first threatened these tariffs almost exactly 100 days ago, the Liberals have done precisely nothing to make us more self-reliant. They continue to make us weak. We have the anti-pipeline law, C-69, still in place, the carbon tax still in place, the threat of a capital gains tax increase on our investors still in place. Not one tax has been cut, not one regulation has been removed, not one step has been taken to give permission to our incredible businesses and workers to build things in this country. And so we are in a position of weakness, not only after 100 days of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, but after 10 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals. And now they want us to give them a fourth term. After 3 terms in office and 10 years of making Canada weak, the Carney-Trudeau Liberals want us to give them a fourth kick at the can. Sorry, 3 strikes and you are out. We need someone else to hit the ball, and we need to take back control of our economic destiny. That's what common sense conservatives will do when we bring it home.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you for your question. I think you might have heard I opened my remarks addressing the unjustified threats of President Trump. But within 4 days, we will have a new prime minister who will be negotiating with President Trump. And that incoming prime minister refuses to tell Canadians where his millions of dollars are invested and therefore where his real interests lie. Imagine Donald Trump leveraging Mark Carney's multi-million-dollar investments in the United States against Canada's interests. How is it possible for Mark Carney to stand up for Canadian jobs when he's already moved jobs from our country to New York? How is it possible for him to support Canadian pipelines that might compete with his foreign energy investments? How is it possible for him to support Canadian energy independence when he has already invested millions of dollars in American coal? The answer is not possible. His financial interests run against our national interest and put us in an incredibly weak position in confronting President Trump. And make no mistake, the U.S. president will take advantage of that weakness. I should also add that Liberals want to use this crisis to make you forget. To make you forget they've been in power for 10 years and 3 terms, that they are seeking a 4th term in office. And they want you to forget that they are the ones that doubled housing costs, doubled food bank lineups, doubled our national debt, drove $500 billion from Canada to the U.S., and made us weak in the face of our American counterparts. What we need is a prime minister who will bring home our jobs and money and put Canada first, and that is what I will do.
Thank you. Next question.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poilievre, Alexandra pour Rebel News. Si c'est possible de répondre à la question en français et en anglais. I was wondering, should the police investigate the fact that Mark Carney was given a confidential briefing by Melanie Joly about the looming U.S. tariff, and why, in your opinion, why Mark Carney is avoiding to speak with media?
I think we should look into these things. We should also find out. Mr. Carney has become very well known for using his political power to become more and more wealthy. He, within days of becoming an advisor to Justin Trudeau, actually after he became an advisor to Justin Trudeau, suddenly Brookfield, his company, was in the running to help in a multi-million-dollar government pension incentive. He used his political influence to try and get governments to subsidize heat pumps from which he could profit. And he's been advising Justin Trudeau for 5 years on the economy, all while he's been moving money and jobs out of our country. Why is it that no one is looking into the conflicts of interest he has already had? Is he really helping the interests of Canada when he talks to the Trudeau ministers about trade with the U.S. at the same time as he moves his headquarters to New York City? I think we need investigations into all of this. And the reason he doesn't want to answer questions from the media is because he gets caught in lies. Remember, he did a post-debate interview, and he said to all of you that he had left Brookfield when the board had made the formal decision to move the Brookfield's headquarters to New York. Well, not only was that false, the board made the formal decision when he was the chair of the board in the room holding the gavel, something he obviously would not have forgotten. It only happened a few months ago. So every time Mark Carney stands in front of the media, he gets caught in a lie, a fib, and a cover-up. He's very sneaky, and he's sneaking around the country, dodging all of your questions. You have to ask your question, you have to ask yourself the question, what is Mark Carney hiding?
Thank you. This will be the final question.
Hi, good morning, Barbara with iPolitics. So since the leadership campaign started, Carney has been critical of Trudeau. He has been saying that he will scrap the carbon tax and even get the pipelines done. This is not that different from what you have been proposing. So are you concerned that Canadians will turn away from your party if given the chance to support the Liberal Party that has moved closer to your views in some of these issues?
Well, first of all, you have to ask if you can believe anything he says. Mr. Carney not only advised Justin Trudeau, he was his economic advisor for 5 years, during which time Trudeau killed pipelines and raised carbon taxes. Mr. Carney publicly testified against pipeline construction at the industry committee. The other day, he put out a policy paper on getting things built that doesn't mention pipelines once. He said he's for pipelines when he was in British Columbia speaking English, and then he said he would let provinces veto them when he went to Cpac and was speaking French. On the carbon tax, he's on the record saying that not only he favors the carbon tax, but he thinks it should be higher. And what he's going to do is something very sneaky. This is going to be fun to watch. He's going to temporarily hide the carbon tax for the election. So the gas prices will drop for 35 days. And then if, God forbid, he wins, he will bring back a much bigger carbon tax with no rebate. He's already said that this tax would apply on things like steel. Well, use steel for everything. I wouldn't be surprised if this room could not stand up without steel supporting beams. Your vehicles that you got here for are steel. There's steel everywhere. Can you imagine the jobs we would lose if carbon tax Carney comes in and brings in a massive new tax increase on steel? He's admitted this tax will raise the price of automobiles. So that's the choice we have in the election. Mark Carney has been wrong about everything. He likes to talk about his experience. His experience is being wrong. He was wrong about the carbon tax. He was wrong about pipelines. He was wrong to advise Trudeau for money printing inflation over the last 5 years. He's been wrong in the past, and he's wrong for our future.
Thank you. That concludes today's press briefing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups: the globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories. Hey gang, just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe, get notified. What a crazy video. We never get answers in question period, ever.